So welcome everyone, All Access Coaches Corner, Rising Coaches. If you haven't been to risingcoaches.com, please visit, check it out. Look into the memberships. Definitely a great amount of value that you can get from networking to the content that's provided to Zoom opportunities like these and all kinds of things for professional development. So definitely check out risingcoaches.com. Excited to have the Super Six here tonight with some awesome Division III coaches, including my own college coach, Coach Terry Butterfield, my college teammate, Travis Carruthers. Competed against Jimmy Smith, I think back when I was playing and as a coach in the Southland when he was at Sam Houston State. Clif Carroll, we're in the same coaching tree. He followed me when I left Collin County and was an assistant for Jim Sagona for 3 years. And then Coach Dorsey, I've just had the pleasure of meeting. I actually saw him play at UTD about a few months ago and just have been able to connect with him and have actually had him on another Zoom that he did a phenomenal job on. And then Adam Walsh is also in the same coaching tree that I'm in with Ross Hodge and the Paris Junior College Fighting Dragon family. So excited to have all these guys on and look forward to just getting to know more about the D3 level. So if you guys don't mind, just introduce yourselves and just tell us one thing about your family, just so we know a little bit about your family, and then we'll get going. We'll let the veteran go first. We'll let Coach Butterfield go first.
Hi, Terry Butterfield from the University of Texas at Dallas. And I come from a coaching family. My father was a former Division III football coach at Ithaca. My sister coached college softball, and my cousin is the third base coach for the Angels. So there you go.
And you have okay, so two things about your family. Tell us about the immediate family that we care about.
Oh, my immediate family?
Yeah. The real stars of the family, Coach. Come on.
Yeah, my family name dies with me because I have three daughters, 31, 28, and 23. And the youngest one just graduated from Texas State and is going to be a second grade teacher in the Princeton ISD, depending on what happens, I guess.
Awesome. And then your lovely wife?
My wife, Tina. Yep.
She matters too.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan, so we can't leave her out. Then you get beat up later on.
She'll be glad to know she was recognized.
Let's go with Coach Smith next.
Jimmy Smith. I'm at Trinity University here in San Antonio, Texas. Actually recently hired here a couple of months ago, so that's been an interesting transition with all this going on, but excited to be here for sure. I have my wife, Lori, and we have 3 children. Harrison is 8, and then we have 2 daughters, Eliza, who is 6, and Sage, who is 4. So I also come from a coaching background. My dad, growing up, was a coach at a bunch of different schools, was at TCU for a long time during my childhood. So I wasn't smart enough to get out of it. My mom still holds it against me, but hey, we're loving it, so it's all good.
Working out well too, Coach. It fits you well.
Appreciate it.
We'll stay in Texas. We'll go to Coach Carroll next.
Yeah, Clif Carroll, University of Mary Hardin, Baylor. Just like Jimmy, I just took the job, coming up on 3 months of working here. So blessed to be here. It's a great spot. I've got 2 little boys. Waylon is 8 and Willie is 4. Good kids. They're still back in Alpine, actually, so I'm missing my family. It's been 3 months since we've been apart. So if anybody wants to buy a house in Alpine, man, it's for sale. I'll cut you a great deal, man.
That might be a tough sell, Coach. That might be a tough sell.
I don't know. I just throw it out there. Somebody might. It's got great views of the Davis Mountains, man. I mean, you get deer in your front yard. Somebody might want it. I don't know.
I don't even think people know what the Davis Mountains are, but I like it.
They're beautiful.
We'll stay close to Texas and go Coach Dorsey next.
Yeah, Chris Dorsey, Centenary College of Louisiana. Just completed my 3rd season here. New to coaching, didn't have no family background, but played Division III ball, so kind of led that path. Just finished my 12th year overall as a coach at the college level. Beautiful fiance, 3 kids, son that's 7, Xavier, another son that's 3, Quincy, and a just fairly newborn daughter, Naomi, who's 7 months.
Awesome. Coach Walsh, and then we'll end it with the guy who's the best dressed. We'll end with him. We'll go Travis next. We'll end with you, Walsh.
I don't know why I'm best dressed. He's got a sport coat on. I got a t-shirt. I had to put a button down on in like 5 months.
I was trying to give Travis a hard time. We'll go Travis next and then Adam.
Okay, so I'm going now.
Yeah, you're going now.
Okay. All right, Travis Carruthers. I'm at the University of the Ozarks in Clarksville, Arkansas. Just completed my 3rd season here. Played for Terry and teammates with Brian. Back in the day, my wife, Sydney, is a professor here at the university, and I have a 2-year-old son named Pierce.
And we got to meet him for those of who just joined. You just met him, so you may get another cameo from him later. Best dressed, we'll end with you.
Thanks, B. Adam Walsh. I'm at Shenandoah University in Virginia. Just finished year 3 here. I came from Centenary before, so Chris replaced me at Centenary when I left. Family, married to Nicole. She went to Notre Dame, rode there, and has been in Fellowship of Christian Athletes for a long time and taught. Then we have Nolan, who will be 3 this fall, and Carolina is 14 months. And then we just got our 2nd dog, so the family keeps expanding. 0 coaching background in my family. Definitely a different career path for my family. So it's been fun.
Awesome. We'll go back to you, Walsh. We'll just kind of get in some D3 hoops and then talk about everybody's background. We'll go straight to what's one thing you want people to know about D3 that maybe they don't know, or maybe they should know, or maybe they should respect better. I'll start with Walsh.
One thing, just really good players. I think a lot of people don't understand that part of it, that this is really, really good college basketball at the Division III level. It's very hard to win at any level of college basketball. 3% of high school kids play NCAA basketball. There are limited opportunities, and there are really, really good players in Division III. And I think for people that aren't familiar with it, that's one of the hardest things for some people to recognize.
Good answer. We'll go with Jimmy Smith next.
I think another thing that people don't realize is there's a lot of opportunities for aid. I think when people hear there's not athletic scholarships, they think that, there's no way they can go there. But with academic success and then potentially with need-based aid, it can be a realistic option for people. And I think, a lot of times it's a better fit than some of the places that people are going that, might not be as good of a fit for them. But I think people should definitely pursue looking into the options, because it could be a good financial fit for them as well as a academic fit when they check it out.
Thanks, Coach. That was good. Let's go Clif next.
Man, I agree with those 2 things. There's meaningful basketball and big-time basketball games. If anybody was in the gym last year when Sol Ross, I coached Sol Ross last year, when Sol Ross played UT Dallas, and that was a big-time college basketball game. When was that, Coach? Back in December, I think, or maybe early January, whenever it was. But that was a big-time basketball game. There's a great atmosphere, great fans. Preparing to play for a Terry Butterfield team is a nightmare. You have to be prepared. You have to be ready. That was big-time basketball. And I sat on the sideline in the Big 12 back when I was working for Coach Knight. I've seen a lot of really big-time games. We have big-time games in Division III.
Awesome stuff, Coach. Coach Carruthers, then Coach Dorsey, then we'll end with the legend.
Yeah, so all those, I think that I think there's a lot of great coaches in Division III that are very passionate about what they do. The level of preparedness the level of passion in the game has just risen exponentially over the last 10 to 12 years, in my opinion, especially in the state of Texas. You can pick a spot no matter what conference you're in, and you're going to get 2 really good teams and 2 really good coaches.
Well said, Coach. Coach Dorsey?
Yeah, basically the same. The coaching is at a high level. Some of the players are super athletic. Some guys have Division I athleticism. So the athleticism is really good. The games are exciting. We played UTD in a national tournament and the atmosphere in there, the level of play was extremely high. You know, we got St. Thomas in our league who could probably beat Division II teams. So the level was really good, and the coaching is good as well.
Yeah, I was at that game. It was definitely a high level play game and coach game by both sides. Legend. I won't refer to you that all night. I'll just say it one more time, Coach.
Well, I just want to say that I have no recollection of this game that Clif Carroll's talking about. It's gone deep into my subconscious. So I don't even remember a trip to Sul Ross this past year, but apparently that happened. I think that the one thing that, you know, I'm a D3 guy. I've coached at all the different levels. My father was a Division III football coach. You know what? I think that at Division III, we really have a great balance. The kids we get are going on to be doctors and lawyers and executives. They're really high-level people. And they're great basketball players. They have great skills. They want to win just like everybody else, but they know at the end of the day, they're going on to bigger and better things. So I just love the balance. You know, when you talk about the student athlete, I really believe at our level, the student comes first before the athlete. You know, I want a kid that comes to UT Dallas because he's just enamored with the academic environment, and then a close second would be the basketball program. Balance is everything at our level. I've had kids transfer from Division II and talk about how much fun they had playing at the Division III level when they were at Division II or a higher division. It was like a job. They're at it 7-8 hours a day. I think balance is huge at the Division III level.
Yeah, I was one of those people, Coach, that transferred from St. Edward's Division II and went back home to play for Coach. Extremely biased that we have Coach on the call. One, because I played for him, but I think we have, like his father, I think we have a Hall of Famer that already has a Hall of Fame career. So I'm going to read off a little bit of what Coach has accomplished, and I'm going to let him talk, and then we'll kind of pass it back around. But I know this is your second stop as a coach. I've been there since 2000, so 20 years as the head coach there, over 500 wins. So I can pat myself on the back with Travis on this one, but I was the first senior to graduate from UT Dallas as a player, right? First senior day. And then that was the first year we won whether it was West or East, I don't even know, but we won a title. First win
in the East, Brian.
In the East. That's what I thought. Just making sure. But we had the first winning season. And since then, you've had 17 in first postseason play, first season of postseason play. And since then, you've had 17 straight seasons of postseason play. 4 titles. 2019 was the last. 7 NCAA tournament appearances, 3 trips to the Sweet 16, 1 to the Elite 8, and 8-time Coach of the Year in the conference. So, of course, I'm naturally biased, but I think Coach deserves to get his flowers as well. But if you don't mind, Coach, we'll just pass it around. You can go in any order you want. Just tell us a little bit about how you got to where you are at UTD. I know you were a head coach at another university before. Most guys on here, I believe, have been a head coach at least 2 stops, except Travis. So just tell us a little bit about your basketball background and how you got to UTD. Well,
you know, as you alluded to, I came in 2000. I was actually fired from a job on the East Coast. Was a shocking experience, and it could have been the end for me. UTD took a chance on me. I love to tell people the story that when I came out to interview, I expected a call within days. It didn't come. The job was actually offered to a middle school coach prior to me. They asked him to come on board, and he turned them down. So they settled for me, the runner-up, and I'm really glad they did. I thought I might be out in this area for 3 to 5 years. I'm an East Coast guy, always have been. And here I find myself getting ready to start my 21st year. And the thing that I would want to say, sort of to my previous point, I found a school that really sort of fit my eye. I found a school that was made up of really, really bright, motivated, driven kids. And as I mentioned, they're really smart kids here. way smarter than me, but they're also really, really driven to play high-level basketball. And over the years, as I've continued to stay here and watched our university grow, it's the kids that have kept me around. And it's the kids, I think, that are the whole centerpiece to all of this stuff. And I look at all of you who are on the call right now, and I would say that most of us aren't doing this for money. I think that's a whole different level of the game where the money is really the money. I think that there's a tremendous level of satisfaction working with a Division III kid, a kid that you don't have to walk to class, is going to achieve well in the classroom, a kid that is going to graduate and go on into big things in his life. And probably the greatest thing for me is when guys come back to us like Brian Burton and Travis Carruthers, and you watch the way they've grown and how their careers have evolved, and you watch the kids who are making six figures and working for the largest accounting firm in the country and some of those things. That's a joy. And those are the things that, keep me young and keep me feeling good about what I'm doing, is because I think they get a lot out of the college basketball experience. And I think it really springboards them into special things in their life.
Awesome. Anybody can follow.
Well, I'll be pretty quick. So I was Terry's assistant for 8 years following a 4-year playing career for him. I had no ambition of coaching college basketball until he asked me to be his assistant in the summer of 2007. It took me one night to think it over, and I jumped on board. Fell in love with the recruiting aspect, which was kind of the first thing that Terry told me. He's like, you've got to figure out how to recruit. And I'm a 22-year-old kid who thought I was going to be a math teacher and 7th grade basketball coach. Like that's what I wanted to do. And ended up having 8 really good seasons there at UTD as an assistant. It was kind of my time to get out of Dallas, and got an associate head coaching job at Howard Payne in Brownwood, where I met my wife. And then 2 years after that, Clarksville opened up and came to the University of Ozarks. And it's a great little place, small town. Never thought I would live in a town of 9,000 people, or coach at a school with 900 students. But it's a great situation here for my family. And so finished up my 3rd year, looking forward to my 4th.
So to follow up, Travis was a great teammate. He was a point guard. I taught him everything not to do. So Travis, he learned a lot of what not to do. We did win. I did teach him how to do that. But to Travis's credit, to give his flowers, he all-time leading assists, I believe, all-time leading free throws.
I think I was able to recruit a guy that broke that.
Oh, somebody broke it. So that must have been recent then.
I think so. Didn't Banks break it?
He may have. I get lost in all those numbers, but
Coach wins so much.
I would just say, Brian, I would have wrestled Travis had he tried to leave town. He was incredibly special, and I know he'd be a great college coach, and it's turning out to be true. So I was right about some things for sure.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Coach Dorsey, you want to jump in next?
Yeah. So I, like I said, I've been coaching at the college level for 12 years. I played Division III at a small college in Vermont, Linden State, and was an okay player. But I knew I wasn't doing a 9 to 5 after college. There was no way. So I think there was a game I had 31 game, and I emailed the coach, and I said, "Hey man, I just graduated. I don't know if you remember me, but I want to get in coaching." And he hit me right back and said, "Yeah, you killed this. Come up, let's interview." So the next day I drove down to New Hampshire, Daniel Webster, and I interviewed. He hired me, a guy named Jeremy Courier, and then he went on to go to Pfeiffer 2 weeks later after hiring me. And Dave Fosher, who's a legendary coach on the East Coast, he coached at Dartmouth for 20 years. He stepped in as the head coach, and that was the best thing that could have happened to me. You know, he gave me full responsibility my first year as a coach, and you know, learned a lot from him. Went on, coached women's basketball for a year, and then my alma mater opened up, and the same AD was there that was there when I was a player, and he called me, offered me the job, and my man Adam Walsh stepped away from Centenary a few years ago, and that opened up the opportunity, you know, at Centenary for me. He did a phenomenal job recruiting. I inherited some great players, so I was definitely thankful for that. And been at Centenary for the last 3 years, and have a great AD. Have some phenomenal kids that just make Centenary a happy place. So I love it here, and you know, I look forward to year 4.
I told Chris this story when I reached out. So I graduated from UT Dallas. My older brother, played at Centenary back in the day when Billy Kennedy, who just retired from A&M, was the head coach. And so I called my brother during the game, like, "Hey man, my former school is playing your former school. Who do you think is going to win?" But good stuff. You had an awesome championship season, Coach. Congratulations. Looking forward to you doing more big things at Centenary and following your career. We'll pass we have some ties here. We got some UMHB Connect, some UTD, some Centenary. So we'll go Centenary to future now Centenary to past Centenary. Let's go, Coach Walsh.
Appreciate it. Definitely a different path than I think everybody on here. I never actually played. I got hurt when I was really young, and I couldn't play contact sports until I was a junior in high school. And so I was way too far removed from being able to be good enough to play high school. So I was still 5'8" at the time and didn't bother getting back on the court. So I started managing in high school, and I went to college to manage at High Point University. We were transitioning from Division II to Division I, and we had one assistant coach. And so I was the head manager there and got to do a lot as a head manager. Started learning the coaching stuff there, really. Got a lot of responsibilities there. And so that was really a key thing for me. Did a year as a GA at Campbell. First coaching job was Barton College, Division II in North Carolina. From Barton, I went to Texas A&M Corpus Christi for 2 years as an assistant to Ronnie Arrow. 1 year at Odessa Junior College, 1 year at Paris Junior College under Ross Hodge, and then took an assistant job at Centenary. And I was there for 10 years, 3 years as an assistant in Division I. And then we made that announcement at Centenary that we were going Division I to Division III. And just timing, right place, right time, became a head coach there, just blessed through that process. And very unique Division I to Division III transition there. And then the job here at Shenandoah opened up. This is my hometown, and it was a huge opportunity to take a shot and try to come home. My parents are aging. I'm an only child, and we had our first child on the way when this job opened. And so it was kind of perfect timing for us, you know, to really make a family move. And it's been a blessing to be here. So 3 years in and just trying to flip this thing. It was not in a good place. Been in the ODAC for 7 or 8 years and still haven't quite made our mark at all as a basketball program. We have in some other sports, and so we got uphill battle still, but we're chipping away at it.
Thanks, Coach. That was great. Coach Smith, we'll go former UMHB assistant, and then we'll go the new UMHB head coach.
All right. I was feeling bad about all my different jobs, so I'm glad Adam went before me. So I appreciate that. So yeah, I played 4 years at Mary Hardin Baylor, and from there, like I said, I grew up in a coaching background, but I wasn't sure if I wanted to coach or go into business. So I went to Sam Houston State as a graduate assistant. At the time, Bob Marlin was the head coach, and was fortunate that they only had two assistants at the time, which is kind of crazy with the landscape of Division I now. But one full-time guy, one part-time guy, and then me as a GA. So I got to do a lot. I really enjoyed it, but at the same time, I got my MBA and couldn't really decide what I wanted to do. Was trying to get coaching jobs, but as we all know, that's tough. So I started interviewing for business jobs, and I actually got a job working for Pfizer Pharmaceuticals. So I got out of coaching. I did that for 3 years, enjoyed it, and but just it wasn't the same. There wasn't the team concept. There wasn't the working together. I really didn't I woke up really not wanting to go to work, and was fortunate enough that Coach DeWeese hired me back to UMHB as his assistant coach. So I was there for 3 years, and we had some really good teams. We made it to the NCAA tournament all 3 years, and was fortunate enough to get a head coaching opportunity out of that. Went to Schreiner University in Kerrville, Texas, and was there for 2 years. The second year, we had another good year. We finished second in the league, and just kind of out of the blue, I got a call from Texas Lutheran and wanted to talk about their job, and it made sense to go do it. So went there, and was fortunate, like Coach Dorsey spoke about, just there was some good guys in the program, and I was able to bring a couple guys in, and we won the league both years. And at that time, I really thought I wanted to just coach Division I. So I got hired back at Sam Houston as an assistant. Jason Hooten was an assistant at the time. When I was there as a GA, he was the head coach. So I was there for a year, and it was a great experience, and those guys do a great job, but I just really missed Division III for a lot of different reasons, and missed being a head coach. So Millsaps College opened up in Jackson, Mississippi, and my wife is a Mississippi native, and so it was an opportunity to move close to her family, and went there. And it was a tough job. It wasn't in a great place when we got there, but we were able to build it up pretty good, and had a pretty good thing going. But Trinity opened, and they've just done a ton of stuff as a university to their facilities, and just all the things that they have to offer that put my name in for it. I'm still not sure why they hired me, but hey, I'm I'm happy they did. So happy to be here in San Antonio, and don't plan on going anywhere else.
Awesome. You got just a few stops, Coach, not many.
Yeah. My wife said it's the last one, so we're here for good.
I might be the only person on the call that can compete with you as far as Coach Carroll, will you go next, please?
Yeah, so I am the worst player on this call. I had no chance to play college basketball. I love basketball. I love playing football. I was a pretty good football player, but bamboozled my way on to the staff at Texas Tech with Coach Knight as a student assistant. That's how I got my start. So spent 4 years there, learned a ton. Graduated there, got hired as a part-time assistant coach at South Plains College with Steve Green, who, arguably is probably the greatest junior college basketball player in the history. He's got 3 national championships in a undefeated season. So I was lucky enough to be part of the first national championship. From there, I got lucky. Coach Burton got a job, and so I got hired in his spot at Collin County, working for Jim Sagona, who's one of the all-time great guys in college basketball of any level. Jimmy is just, Terry knows that they live right down the road, so he's one of the best ever. So really lucky to work for those two guys. From there, I got my break. I went to Lamar University as an assistant coach with Pat Knight. Spent 2 years there. We got to make the NCAA tournament there. Had a lot of good success. Had a chance to be a head coach. Went to McMurray, who at the time was transitioning from D3 to D2. I took over for Chris Beard there. Had basically a half of a really great year. They made a decision that they're going to drop scholarships, and threw our season into turmoil there. The next season we played unaffiliated, so we were transitioning back to Division III, but we weren't part of a conference. So I got to play against Jimmy that year. I got to play against Adam that year. I thought me and Adam were have a fight at midcourt. Adam, you remember that game, man? Oh,
that was wild.
So no, we weren't going to fight, but it was pretty heated, man. A referee called a technical foul after the game was over, and Adam was up by 1, I think. It was sitting there, he was up by 1, and he called a technical foul on their bench after the game was over, and we were going to shoot free throws to win the game. It was crazy. That was an insane game, but just like Terry said earlier, man, I got fired from McMurray. I got called in, the week after the season was over, and let go. It blindsided me. I didn't know what was going to happen. and I thought I was done. I was going to go back to Lubbock and work for my best friend. He owns a construction company. So I thought I was going to be done. And the Sul Ross job kind of came open. I put my name in for it. I didn't hear nothing about it. Finally, through all the connections, we finally got together, and I landed there out there in West Texas. And it was a blessing, man. It was one of those things where I needed Sul Ross, but Sul Ross needed me, as well. And it was a great fit for both of us at the time. We had a lot of good success. Typically Sul Ross is, supposed to be last place in the league. And I don't think it's that way anymore. I think we were able to turn that thing around. We had great players, great kids, won the division 3 times, hosted the tournament 3 times. And then, Coach Luis retired, and, by the grace of God, I was able to get this job. And I feel like Mary Hardin Baylor is one of the best situations in the country, and certainly blessed to be here. And hopefully I can have half as much success as the Ken DeWeeses and the Terry Butterfields. If I can even come close to touching what those guys have done, then we'll be a success here.
Good stuff. Good stuff. A lot of people have followed the others on the call. Kind of cool to see the connections and ties. Clif followed me at Collin County, and then I eventually followed him and went to Lamar. So I got to follow up and be a Lamar Cardinal for Tick Price. So real quick, we'll just go kind of a speed round. Give a 1-minute kind of recruiting pitch, or even just conversation pitch on what makes your, in particular, school a special place. So we'll start with Coach Carroll. Since you just went, we'll let you go first.
Everything about Mary Hardin Baylor is first class. There is nothing that's second rate here. You come here, you get a first class education. You're gonna play in first class facilities. We have a president that's passionate about our school. He's an alumnus of Mary Hardin Baylor. He's passionate about our school. Our alumni base is unbelievable. And unfortunately, you have to play for me though. So that's our pitch. You come here. It really is a special place. It kind of sells itself a little bit, which is, a good selling point. And we're going to have a lot of success here.
Awesome. Coach Carruthers, you go next.
Yeah. So I'm big on the communication part. We're going to have constant communication. We're going to build a relationship from day one, and I'm going to surround you with high quality people, from the faculty and staff to the students. We have a very unique situation here where about a quarter of the students are international. So although we're in rural Arkansas, you're going to be educated with a lot of people that are different from you, which I think is a very unique educational opportunity. So it's not for everybody. It's not like we don't get guys from inner city Dallas or Houston a lot of times, because there's not a lot to do here. So, I don't try to beat around the bush and say, Friday and Saturday night, you can do whatever you want. This is for education and to compete at a high level. And once your 4 years are done, you're going to be prepared for life.
Awesome. Thanks, Coach. Coach Walsh.
Thanks. Shenandoah University is about an hour outside of DC, hour and a half, right here at the northern tip of Virginia. Very unique situation. I said earlier, our hometown guys, so I've watched this place grow a lot. The university has grown a ton over the last 20 years. We built a brand new arena 2 years ago. They had broken ground while I was interviewing, so I knew that was coming for sure. That's something that's been discussed here for 30 plus years. Our president is very forward thinking. We're on the front edge of a lot of trends academically. We're in our first year of esports as a major. So we actually have an academic major in esports, and we just offered a master's certificate in esports coaching. So we have some very unique things going here, virtual reality, handful of other things that just she wants to stay on the front edge of kind of job trends. And so it's been very positive through this time, honestly, to know that she's thinking about the future a lot with all the uncertainty that we have going on. And we're very healthy. We're growing 5 years in a row, largest incoming classes. So we've continued to grow as a university. And I just think everything here is a positive right now, positive trends all around campus. So it's been good.
Not to mention probably the best dressed Division III coach.
Just for you, B. Just for you.
I love it. High level dude. Let's go Jimmy Smith next, then Coach Dorsey, then Coach Butterfield. I think you're on mute, Coach.
Let me unmute myself there. No, Trinity is a really unique school in that it offers a lot of things that smaller schools don't really offer from a location standpoint. So being in such a big city of San Antonio provides students and student athletes with a lot of opportunities for internships and shadowing and different things to get connected for their future after basketball. Academically, depending on the publications you're looking at, Trinity is right up there with Rice and UT and all those schools from an academic standpoint. So you're going to get a phenomenal education, and they've really invested a lot here recently into their facilities, particularly basketball. They just put $14 million into it. So you've got a brand new athletic weight room. You've got a brand new weight room for students, faculty, and staff. They redid the gym, put some video boards in there, redid the locker room. So, as far as facilities are concerned, I've been a lot of different places, obviously, as I talked about the different schools I've worked at and seen. And, I would take what we have over just about anybody. So I think it just offers a really unique experience from that standpoint. And then basketball-wise, I think we're going to have an opportunity to compete at a high level. There's been a lot of national championships won at Trinity in women's basketball and soccer and tennis, and volleyball is just in the Final Four. So, our aspirations are to get ourselves in the national scope as well. So come to Trinity.
Awesome. Good stuff, man. Good stuff. Stay in league. Let's go over to Louisiana in the boot.
Yeah, Centenary is just a special place overall, but more specifically on the academic side, one of the best academic schools in the state of Louisiana. And, it's not for everyone, but the good thing is we're a small college. We got a little over 500 students, but that means that it's almost impossible to fail academically, so the class sizes are small, and I'm able to monitor every player's academic progress, so academically you're going to succeed with no question. Athletically, our facilities, we have Division I facilities in the Gold Dome. Nothing like Trinity's, but it's pretty nice. The Gold Dome is pretty nice compared to the other schools in our conference. And then last, you get to play for now a championship program. You get to be a part of a championship team. We only lost one senior last year, so we have a ton of experience coming back. And, we had one of the hardest working part-time assistant coaching staffs at the Division III level that you can ask for. So, the coaching staff, we're all grinders. The facilities are beautiful. And the most important thing is the academics. And last, we're going to prepare you for your professional and personal life after college. That's our main goal. So you'll get those four things from Centenary.
Awesome. Well done, Coach. Coach Butterfield?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I was going to be in Dallas for 3 to 5 years, and 21 years later, here I am. And the University of Texas, Dallas has just experienced explosive growth in my tenure here. We've gone from a student body of 9,600 to over 29,000. We're the second largest Division III in the country behind NYU up in New York City. Our students are just unbelievably prepared and special. Our average SAT right now at UT Dallas is 1370. And by the way, Coach Carruthers, thank God you came 10 years earlier. I don't know if I could get you in anymore, bud.
Hey, thank God I was a transfer. I never would have got in.
No, you wouldn't. So it's actually very frustrating because our academic standards have grown to such a level. It's hard to find kids that can meet our criteria, but the ones we find are really special kids. And we are really centered around technology. We're very strong in engineering, computer science, business. We have a lot of pre-med kids. They're just incredible kids that come to school here, and we have that international presence as well. One of the things I always like to tell kids about us is, you know, when you're trying to decide on a school, you not only have to decide where you want to go, but you have to decide what kind of kids do I want to rub elbows with along the way. And I can guarantee the kids that come to UTD, they're going to be in a very special learning environment. And they may have been a big fish in a small pond at the high school level. You know, all of our kids are top 10% and have these gaudy SATs, but they're going to be surrounded by kids that are just like them. And I think that really sets us apart. And again, there's a basketball tradition here that I find to be special. And my time is short here, but I really think it's just going to continue to get better and better as the years roll by.
Well said, Coach. A funny story, when we were at the regional tournament that you guys hosted, my wife came with me. And my wife played division. So my wife's the stud of the family by far, as a coach and as a player. She won a Little League World Series in 1997 with her sisters on her team. She was the best player. She went on to play at Colgate, had some big time offers, but wanted to play two sports. So she went to Colgate and played softball, still holds the RBI record, will soon be in the Hall of Fame. And then she also played volleyball and was all conference defensive player of the year and has the Diggs record. So anyway, I say that to say she knew that I played D3. And funny story, she came to the Lamar game when we played Travis's team at one point in time at Howard Payne. And we happened to beat them pretty handily. So my wife's kind of looking at me like, this is what you played? And I think she might have been at one other game. So she came to the UTD game, both games. I don't remember who you played first, but also came to the centenary game. Did you guys play first or second? I don't remember. Second game?
We played the first game.
Okay, so
the first night.
She came to both games, but she came after that first night. She looked at me and said, okay, like, these guys can actually play. These guys can actually really so maybe you can play after all. So I got some credibility thanks to both of you guys coaching that night as a player. So
and Coach Dorsey, that kid that just loaded up against us that night, he graduated, right? He's a senior, right? He was a senior, right?
Yeah, he was a senior. He was our only senior, yep.
Yeah, God bless that kid. I'm glad he's moving on because he was – yeah, we have not seen shooting performance like that in our gym in some time, and most people don't know. He had actually a look at the end of the game to win it for you all. It was a very exciting game,
Yep.
And I remain shocked to this day after all the tough shots he made. That was probably the most open he got all night, and I know he thinks about that, but what a great player he was.
Thanks, Coach. I appreciate that, man. It was an awesome game, a game I'll never forget for sure.
Neither will I.
yeah, I just happened to be home the right weekend and be able to see it too. It was awesome. So we'll make this round a little fun. So any funny story, anybody can go in any order. Any funny story, either about yourself or a player as a coach, either assistant or head coach. Any funny story you got? Give us a little laughter real quick before we change gears.
I got a good one, Gary.
Yeah, let's
So
go.
I
I figured since we have so many connections on the call that somebody was going to be somebody.
I've got plenty for Terry, but I'll tell one. I was playing at the time, and we were doing some sort of 2-on-2 where we take them down to the baseline, and we're driving it hard and then trying to cut them off before they get to the lane. And he's standing on the baseline, coaching us up, and one of my teammates puts his foot out and kicks the ball, and it hits him right in the groin. And he dropped to his knees. And me, I just burst into laughter, right? Like, I just thought it was the funniest damn thing that Terry got hit in the nuts. And he looked at me, and I said, I'm not laughing at you. So
no wonder, and you wonder why you didn't play for a year and a half. You know, why you sat on the bench so long.
I got kind of a good one. So when I was a GA at Sam Houston, one of my jobs was to get food for the head coach before bus trips. So he wanted Sonic that day. So I had like an extra long chili cheese coney and the cherry limeade and the whole deal. Hop on the bus, give it to him. And we were going to play Southeastern Louisiana. So we get there, get off the bus, and realize I didn't bring my bag. It's because I just brought his food on and just stayed on the bus. So as a GA, you don't make any money. So I had to get our bus driver to take us over to the mall, which you can imagine what that's like in Hammond, Louisiana. So I grabbed some pants real quick that were my size. I didn't really have that much money. So our student assistant, Scott Jernander, who some of you might know, convinced me that these little like house shoe slip-ons, they were like fake leather, look like dress shoes. So I got those. And then I pick up this mock turtleneck because our Coach Marlin used to wear one all the time. So I'm wearing all black. I got a black mock turtleneck, some black pants, and these house slippers. So I'm feeling okay about it. I go to put the pants on. I grab a pair of pants that are unhemmed. So I go to our trainer, and she gives me she's like sewing my pants up kind of at the bottom from the little training, like from the, the little kit that's in the hotels with the string and stuff. And some pins and all this kind of stuff. So she pins me up enough to where I'm not tripping on my pants. But during the first half, she bends over to pick up a water bottle and rips her pants. And so at halftime, she's trying to take my string and my clothes, my pins to get her pants sewed up. But anyways, we ended up winning that game, and they were a good team at the time. And so Coach tried to make me wear the same outfit for the rest of the season, but I refused. So I haven't left my bag since.
Oh, man, that's a classic. That's going to be hard to beat.
Well, I'll tell you, when I was at Lamar working for Pat Knight, he hadn't spent much time in Louisiana, so we went to Natchez to play at Northwestern State, and I was telling him about the meat pies there, how good they were. And so, and obviously, if you look at me, like if there's some good food somewhere, I'll find it, right? So, so we go down that little corner store in front of the hotels we stay at, and he tries a meat pie and falls in love with them. So between that night and the next day when we played, I bet you Pat Knight probably ate about 25 of those meat pies. So we get there to the game, and he's going to kill me if this ever comes out that he hears this. But so we get to the game, and right before halftime, he starts wiggling around and getting all sweaty. I'm like, Pat, you okay? He's like, no, man. No, I got to go. And so he turned around and he goes, you got him. And it was like 2 minutes left in the half. And anybody that's been to Northwestern State, you're pretty good ways away from the locker rooms. So he takes off duck walking because those meat pies had gotten to his stomach. And so so when we come back to halftime, he's had to change his pants and all. Yeah, it was, yeah. So be aware of the meat pies there in Natchez. Just eat 2 of them. Don't eat 25.
Moderation, man. Moderation.
I got a good one. First year as a head coach. I was the 4th youngest head coach in Division I that year. That Centenary was the last season of Division I for Centenary. First game of the season, we go to Memphis. We have 5 scholarship players on the roster. And we go to Memphis. That's where we open up. Sellout game, like 19,000 in the Forum in Memphis. The day before the game, so I'm a first-year head coach. We only had those 5 scholarship kids, so our whole roster was basically brand new. So we show up to shoot around the day before to practice, and Memphis has got 2 GAs set up in the stands with cameras, and they're there to film our practice. And I'm looking at everybody like, look at my assistant coach, like, who are these dudes? Who do they think they are? And so we get them to come down and come out of their perch, and they're like, oh, we were told to come film practice. We had an agreement because we couldn't get any film on you guys. And I said, well, that's interesting because I never agreed to anything and never heard from anybody on staff. And so, it's really cool that you guys are here. And said, why don't you go get Josh on the phone and tell me what he thinks about this. And so we get out there to start practice. I tell my guys to take their practice jerseys off, right? So they got their tight spandex tops on. And so there's no numbers. And so our guys are out there shooting for like the first 30 minutes. I'm still waiting for these guys to come back down to tell me what Josh said at Memphis. And finally I see them packing up their cameras because we don't have numbers on, so there's nothing for them to film. And these guys come back down. They're like, hey, you need to call Josh as soon as we get done with practice. We're really sorry. We shouldn't be here. And I said, oh, okay, cool. I appreciate your time. Have a good night. And they walked out, and needless to say, after the game, getting beat by 65 with his starters in till the last buzzer goes off, including a couple pros. And we had a bunch of walk-ons. Handshake line was fun.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Coach Dorsey, Coach Butterfield, either one of you got anything you want to add?
And I got this year, man, was it almost was an embarrassing experience. Semi-final game at Shriner versus Shriner. I get pretty intense, and I get gritty and I get down in the defensive stance. So, Cedric, our shooter, hits a big three, and I get fired up like, yeah, guys, let's D up, right? So I squat down in the defensive stance, and all I hear is a tear sound. And I pop straight up, and I put my hand on my butt to see, like, did I just rip my pants? And my whole hand goes inside of my pants. and I sat down next to my assistant. I said, I can't get up for the rest of the game. If something happens, you're going to have to get up for me. He said, why, coach? I said, I have a big-ass hole in the back of my pants, and I can't get up. So the rest of the game, about 7 minutes left in the game, I just sat down. And the guys were, looking at me crazy, like, why the heck is coach sitting down? And after the game, we do our announcements, and I didn't bring a change of clothes. So I was walking around the game or after the game, like a penguin. So my slit in my pants wasn't open. And, they did the all conference announcements, and I walked out to receive the coach of the year. And I was walking out like a penguin. Good thing is my briefs were black and my dress pants were black. So after the game, my fiance said you couldn't even tell, but I was paranoid the whole time.
Yeah, but you got the W. That's what matters.
Got the dub, man. Sitting down, I couldn't believe it.
How did you? One quick question: how did you handle the timeouts, Coach?
What's that?
How did you handle the timeouts? You just stayed in that seat.
I didn't move, man. I did not move. I didn't come out of my seat. For 7 minutes.
Good stuff. I think you're on mute, Coach. Okay, there you go.
Sorry about that. I
know you were trying to think of one of me, Coach, but this is not about me. You got to tell something else.
The problem is, Brian, I'm so stinking old, I can't remember that far back. So,
that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
But I do remember, so Carruthers, Travis is from Austin, from Georgetown, actually. So we all know in Texas, as you go further south, the weather becomes more temperate. He comes to UTD. He's a little pimply-faced freshman. He's got big blonde curly hair. I don't know. He looked like Brian. He looked like he was about 12, don't you think?
No question. Maybe even 11.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, we have a tradition. Saturday morning, like most of you, we're doing a shoot around at 10 o'clock in the morning, and so this particular Saturday morning, it had actually snowed the night before, and there was actually quite a bit of snow on the ground. It's unusual to have an accumulation here in Dallas, but this particular day, there was probably 3, 4, maybe even 5 inches on the ground, snow that had fallen on Friday night. So I'm from upstate New York, so it means nothing to me. It's just snow was snow. Grew up with it, skied on it, all that stuff. So I don't have much of a thought about it, but I'm deep in thought, getting ready for the shoot around. We're playing a big game that afternoon at 3 o'clock, 10 a.m.'s close by. I am walking from our locker room out to the gym floor to make final preparations for our shoot around. And at the training room door, which is the door where the kids come in to get to the locker room during a shoot around on a Saturday, here comes Travis. And so I just make casual conversation. And there's a moral to this story, by the way, as to how you handle language. So anyway, Travis comes in the door, and man, he's bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and his cheeks are all red. And I say, hey, Travis, what do you think about the snow? You don't get any snow in Austin. And without hesitation, here's this 18-year-old kid. He said, awesome, coach, awesome. So I stood there in shock. But before I could respond, he says, we had a hell of a snowball fight this morning. I've been making snow angels. We built a snowman. He proceeds for 5 minutes to detail all the cool stuff he did in the snow. So I know for sure that he's really ready to play that afternoon because he's been making snow angels outside of his dorm. I don't know that I don't know that I ever said anything to him about the language because I didn't want to ruin the moment for him. I think I shrugged my shoulders and went on, but that's my Travis story.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I don't think I ever heard that story before. That's awesome.
He remembers.
Let's go one more lightning round. Just tell the people and tell us real quick, what's one reason why you coach, or what's the why to why you coach? If you could kind of sum it up in a 60-second elevator speech, so to speak.
Who we starting with?
Any order. I'm sorry. Any order you want to go with.
Hey, it's the kids. It's the kids. You know, I, again, been doing this for 40 plus years at all different levels, 30 as a Division III head coach. Any of us that believe that our lives aren't tied to the quality and character of our kids along with their talent is making a big mistake, because it's driven home to me numerous times every single year. If you're going to have a good team, you've got to have really good kids of high quality, and they've got to pull together like nothing else.
Great answer, Coach.
Yeah, I can echo that statement. Not another funny story, but we played noon hoops at Millsaps, and somehow we got into the story where Swanee, we tried to decide who had a better noon hoops team, us or Swanee. And so we ended up driving to Birmingham Southern over Christmas break to play against their noon hoops team in a little tournament. And Birmingham Southern got into it too, which they shouldn't have because they were terrible, and they got 40-piece by both of us. But we end up playing, and it was just, we rode a van up there, and our tennis coach drove us, and like it just kind of reiterated how much fun it is to be a part of a team and be a part of camaraderie and working towards a common goal. And, you know, like Coach said, just being able to create these lifelong relationships with people. But I think just being a part of a team and is the big thing for me. It's just a lot of fun. And we did win, by the way, just so you know. Coach Wright, I think I saw, was on the call somewhere. He was the MVP. So another UTD guy started picking up full court and getting steals late in the game, and he closed it out for us. So a shout out to Coach Wright over there.
Yeah, it's Commas. We run deep, man. We run deep.
Yep.
Coach Wright, MVP of the conference tournament, and led us to the Elite Eight one year. God bless you, Tamaine Wright.
Anybody that wants to go next?
Brian, I'll go. I think everything for me is why has always been just, I feel like I'm called to coach. You know, I definitely think it's a God thing. I think it's, you know, where I'm supposed to be. You know, we feel like that as a family too. You know, my wife's all in on this, and, you know, just the opportunity to pour into our kids, our team kids. And it's, you know, just the family environment that we get to create and help shepherd and mentor and, you know, lead in that manner with the kids that we have in our program.
Awesome. Shout out to your wife, by the way. She's one of my favorite coaches' wives that I know, man. She's always been awesome.
She said to tell you, hey.
That's about right. We've hung out many Final Fours and many coaching events. I'm like, wait a minute, your wife's here? She's like, yeah, she's all in. I'm like, that's why I like her. Got to keep her.
So for me, you know, I was not in a coaching tree. My mom and dad both worked very hard, worked a lot of hours when I was young, and I spent a lot of time at my grandparents' house. And my grandfather was a huge basketball fan, huge Boston fan. There's no coincidence why my son's name is Pierce, right? I'm a huge Celtics fan. And so his love for the game really got me going, and I fell in love with the game when I was real little. but most importantly, I had really, really good coaches from going through Pee Wee ball. Coach Rich Stuyvesant, who retired a couple years ago, he coached. I went to his camps from like first, second grade all the way till I was coaching in them during college. And then Randy Weisinger, who was at North Shore and Georgetown and was the AD at Waco Midway for a while. Chris Romine and Cody Blake, and then Terry. Once they're just huge role models, great people, and I knew that I wanted to affect young people in the way that they affected me.
For me, mine has changed over the years, but about 6 years ago, I was introduced to a book called Think and Grow Rich, and it basically changed my life around. It made me realize my purpose was basketball, and for me, I believe that our entire being is to serve other people. Like, that's why we're here, is service. So that's the reason I coach, because it's really what I'm best at, and I think it's a good platform for me to serve other people, players and other coaches. So that's the reason I coach.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't come from a coaching background. My dad was a farmer. My family's farmers. And back in the mid-'90s, we had a terrible drought in West Texas. And my dad's the hardest working person I've ever seen. I mean, he worked himself, to the bone, and it didn't rain. And so the farm failed. And I always told myself that I was never going to put myself in a position where I had to pray for rain. And so, as you go in and you become part of teams as a kid, the camaraderie you have, and, just like everybody else said, the chance to serve kids, the chance to have relationships. I love coaching. I think it is a calling. Obviously none of us are getting rich off of this. None of us, but monetarily, but we're getting rich off of relationships, man. I wouldn't trade my friends and the people I have in coaching and the relationship I have with my kids, with my players, for anything. So, I was not going to be a farmer, and I was going to figure it out. I was going to find something else. And by the grace of God, I was able to bamboozle my way into basketball practice at Texas Tech back in 2002 or 2001, and sent me on my way. So, that's why I coach. Once you get into it, man, you start seeing your kids, just like Terry has said over and over and over. I'm starting to be in coaching long enough to have kids that are going off and doing great things, becoming great coaches, becoming great fathers. It's one of my favorite things to see is when my players have kids. So those relationships are special to me. I look forward every year to bringing in the new crop of kids and developing those relationships and the neat type of people that we have. And coaching it is a calling. It's a special profession. We're all lucky to be doing what we're doing.
Great stuff from everybody. We'll open up to the audience after this next question. This one's a little bit heavier, and I'll lead off with Coach Carruthers. But obviously social justice is one of the more main topics right now. All of us coach different athletes, some white, some black, some of any race it could possibly be. But just curious of things that you've done with your team, any thoughts that you have that you feel comfortable sharing as we're all trying to kind of figure out how to best navigate these waters. I know me and Travis had some awesome conversations around it. He actually reached out as a former teammate, just kind of just having some honest conversation, like, hey, what do I talk about? How do I handle this? So I know he's done some great stuff with his team and has been active in it. And there's no right or wrong answer per se. I'm just curious what thoughts you guys have in general as we continue to do our best to make an impact with the lane that we have to help prepare our student athletes and help make our world and our space better for going forward when it comes to equality and the Black Lives Matter topic that is a big one right now. So I'll let Travis lead it off.
Yeah, so like Brian said, we had some great conversations. That really all stemmed from conversations with my wife. We were driving from Arkansas to Central Texas, and we just started talking about the subject and figuring out the facts about us and where we grew up and who we grew up around. And we grew up in a very privileged society, and we were around white people exclusively growing up until I came to college. And I had a little, I would think that I had a little color, invisible race, as I didn't really see Brian or my other teammates as black, and I didn't see the differences and what was going on until I matured a little bit, and it's kind of opened my eyes. And being able to call my former teammates and my friends and talk to them honestly about it, 'cause Brian's not the only one that I've talked to, has really helped me. I think for me, one of the most unique things for me is that Pierce is going to grow up around black people, and I think that's awesome. I think it's just a great opportunity for him to grow in a more rapid way, and not only but like really motivated and educated and people that like Pierce. I think it's just so fun. But for our team, we've had multiple Zoom calls. We're going to continue to do it. I've really, the first few times, have opened it up as more of conversation and let the guys talk about it. And again, Sydney has been huge. Sydney is a public speaking professor here, and she's very smart. She's way smarter than I am. So she's given me a lot of different ideas about how to facilitate the topics, and I'm excited to move forward. I've also been involved in the Black Student Association Zooms here within the university, which has been very eye-opening and has connected me with people that I probably wouldn't be connected with, former students here at Ozarks, professors all over Arkansas, and it's just fun to be around. And I think that more than anything, this is we have to share ideas as coaches, because we are leaders right now, and we're trying to mold and educate the future leaders of America. And I think it's an exciting time. I love the momentum that's happening, and it can't die just because things start kicking back up.
Yeah, awesome stuff, TC. And TC actually started a group chat with a bunch of us, the former teammates, and just kind of opened it up. And I give him a lot of credit for the courage and the heart to want to do that. So, salute to you, Travis. Keep up the good work. Anybody can go next.
Yeah, I'll jump in there. So I grew up in a kind of like Travis, a small farming town. And so basically our town was half Hispanic and half white people. And so I didn't encounter black people until I came to college. So just kind of the same thing. Ronald Ross and Jay Jackson and Daryl Doyle, those were my best friends in college. Andre Emmett, those were my best friends in college. We hung out. I learned a lot from them. But I really didn't have that aha moment until I read Peter Sweltham's book. Shout out to Pete down in I guess he's in Mexico City now, but formerly from Houston. He wrote the Recovering Racist book and encouraged me to read it. And man, it was like hitting me upside the head, with the frying pan of some of the things that you don't think about as a white man growing up. You don't think about, and he really laid some things out in that book that just floored me. And so this was, I guess, 2 years ago when I read this book. I started then to start having conversations with my players and former players and former buddies from back in college, and just really being more conscious of how I'm interacting with society and making sure that the mistakes that we made in the past as a race of white people are not being repeated. And just like Travis said, man, I think it's so cool that my two boys are being raised to where, my players are brothers, man, and they're brothers to my kids, like my kids love all those. And it's great to see from a young kid's perspective. He doesn't see the difference between my white players and my black players. And hopefully we're in a society where those things are not going to be learned, like where people are going to be equal. So, it's to me, it goes all the way back to education and communication. We have to learn about each other. we have to learn about the issues that we have with each other, and we have to communicate and work them out. And it's an ongoing process. It's a process for me as a coach coming from a small farming community in West Texas. There's a lot of things that I have to learn, but I do believe this: if you're a good person, you're a man of God, you have faith in society, you have faith in people, we'll get through this stuff. So I'm blessed to have a lot of people to talk to and to lean on, and Thomas Orr is my new assistant here at Mary Hardin Baylor. We talked about it a little bit in the office last week, and so he's going to be a guy. All the assistants I got coming, Barry Johnson and Jeremy Hart, those guys, we will talk about this stuff as a staff, and those guys are going to be able to help me, kind of grow as a person and continue to develop as a coach.
Awesome, Coach. Thanks for sharing it.
I can step in. I mean, I think for me, I came from a little different background. Like I said, I grew up as a coach's kid. So, being a part of a team and being around people from, different areas and different cultures was just something I was used to. And so I think the big thing for me was really understanding that people don't think the same way I do. A lot of things would happen in the world, and I'm sure there's a lot of people that you're like, there's no way that someone would actually do that or do that for this reason. And so, working at small colleges, and like when I was at Shriner, they didn't have football. And so the majority of the African Americans on the campus were on the basketball team. And that was when I started to realize, there really is something to do, there's something to this. And so for us, at Trinity, it's been tough because I've never actually met a lot of my players in person. But when we did Zoom calls and something that worked out really well, I reached out to some friends as well, and was facilitating conversation where you gave people a minute or two to speak on a topic. And so it was like, talk about a time when the first time that, something racist happened to you or you witnessed something happen. And so just starting the discussion on that this is a real thing, and so we're continuing to talk on the topic, but the biggest thing we're trying to do is figure out what can we do to make a difference. And, so some of the things we've talked about doing, number one is like volunteering at, an elementary school and going over there and, just creating relationships with people in the younger generation just to work together better. And, I think that's the big thing for us from a standpoint is like, what can we do to actually make a difference? We can talk about a lot of stuff and we haven't figured out exactly what that's going to look like. So, conversation is important, but, doing things that are going to continue to push the envelope and open people's eyes. This is a real problem. Even if you don't think the way that other people think, you still have to understand that it's a problem. So to me, it's an ongoing thing. It's something that it can't stop. The momentum's got to keep going. The conversations have to keep going, but more so, we got to continue to figure out ways that we can make positive change. And so that's where we're at. We're still kind of at the drawing board, but we're definitely going to push the envelope.
Yeah, good stuff, Jimmy. Thanks for that. The open conversation is definitely the start. The education, as Clif alluded to too, and figuring out ways to take action. But thanks so much for sharing that, Coach. That was great.
I'll jump in, B.
Go ahead, Adam.
You sure, Terry?
Yes, sir.
Okay. This is hard. It's a hard time right now for all of us. Basketball, is such a platform for us to help lead change right now. It's a chance for us to help lead on our campuses. I think, our kids are all over the place with emotions still, over the last 2 months. And we've done the group calls on Zoom. We've done a lot more individual check-ins with guys. Just to gauge, where they're at and how they're doing. Side note, I think the best thing that it's probably not rocket science, but I think the best thing that we can do as white males, those of us that are on this call, is literally just ask how you're doing and tell me, help me understand, and we need to listen. And, the more that we can listen, the more that we can learn, the more that we can learn, the more that we can educate somebody else. And, we're all coming from different places. So anyway, back into what we're doing with the guys, we did a movie watch. We did the movie Just Mercy. That's the first thing we've done kind of as a cultural engagement piece and program that we're going to start within our team. Different mediums, so books, articles, movies, maybe even documentaries, just, various mediums that the guys bring to the table. Because not just our black guys, but like we have a kid from New Zealand on our roster, and like nobody on the team knows anything about New Zealand. Like that's just a side note, but like this is a chance for us to kind of engage that whole conversation within the team, just to help each other, like help everybody on the team know each other better and understand, what guys are wrestling with right now. We're bringing in guest speakers. We already have. We've already started voting education period within our team. I think we got one guy left to get registered to vote and sign up for absentee balloting. We're helping that conversation for our entire athletic department here right now, kind of from our program. And then I guess I already touched on kind of the cultural series that we're doing as a team. So those are the things that we've done. I think the largest battle that we have is not letting this conversation stop. This is we're talking about systemic racism, and it's we can't be a part of anything less than being better. Like we have to be better people. We have to help the world change, and you change hearts. If you change hearts, you change homes. If you change homes, you change the world. And that's one way that we're talking about it with our guys and everybody that we interact with on our campus.
Yeah, great stuff. I love the point about listening and asking, and I also love the cultural kind of dive in that you're doing as a team. That's awesome stuff. Thanks, Coach.
So I was I feel blessed and fortunate. My best friend from 5th grade to this day happened to be black. So, elementary school and middle school, which back in the day was called junior high school, he earned an engineering degree, aerospace engineering degree from Syracuse University, very bright. And I've had the good fortune for him to tell me exactly how it was and how it is throughout most of my life. My best friend and college teammate from college, black, and again, more of the same. One of probably my best coaching friend over the years, Cuban American, his family had to leave Cuba because Fidel Castro was after him. I mean, there's just so many opportunities for us coaches to gain different perspectives. And you think about all the different people that we as a group have had the opportunity to associate with. Go to the NABC convention during the Final Four and just look at the people that are interacting with each other. It's just an amazing mixture of people and how they've come together. And the one thing I've learned is that I don't know half as much of what I think I know. And Adam, I think you made this point. The best thing we can do is listen. My best friend from high school, when he had to tell me the ugly truth about certain things, it was up to me to listen. My college buddy, to this day, he's sending me stuff on Messenger. I need to listen. The kids, we need to listen to the kids. The things that they say and the things that they feel are just not idle thoughts. These are deep seated thoughts and emotions that we need to sort of try to grasp. I have never walked a mile in the shoes of an African-American male or female, obviously, but it's up to me to listen and form an understanding, form an appreciation, form some sort of bond, and learn about what they go through on every day. I've never been pulled over and stopped in the middle of the road because I look like somebody that they're on the look. I mean, the stories that you hear, I have no concept of what it's like to have that happen to you. And all I can do is try to be part of the solution. In the way that I think that I can do that best with my kids is to listen and to hear what they have to say. And in order to listen, they have to be comfortable with me to be able to tell me how things really are. You know, I used to tell my kids growing up, you know, you might not like what I have to say. In fact, you might hate me for it, but I'm going to tell you the truth. I am going to tell you the truth, whether you like it or not. I said that to each one of my girls growing up. And I just feel like it's important that people need to tell me the truth in my journey, no matter how hard it is to hear or how difficult it is to respond to. It's up to me to listen. And I think we can all be better if we learn to listen. And I think that as I've gotten older, maybe I listen a little bit better than I used to, but I still don't think I've arrived at the station. I just think it's up to me to listen and really take to heart what people are telling me about the world today.
It's powerful, Coach. Great job. Thank you for that.
Yeah, I went to when I was in college, I got pulled over, and this is just one of 100 stories that I could tell, but this is one that just comes to mind. I got pulled over, and the officer told me he pulled me over because I was driving too cautiously, and then he asked me if I had any guns or hand grenades in the vehicle. I've been pulled over tons of times, but never for that reason, and no one's ever asked me that question before. But after that incident, when I was in college, for a while, I walked around with like hatred in my heart. You know, I was just completely mad at everybody that was white. So when I had the opportunity to have the conversation with my players, I asked them how they felt about the situation. And after everyone spoke, the comments that they gave had hatred behind their comments. And the first thing that I told them was change your mindset, because people are basically good. And because you had an incident, because this is going on in the world, I don't want you walking around hating white people because of the things that you see on social media, because people are basically good, regardless of their color. Now, it's okay to understand that racism exists. You know that there's a such thing as white privilege. But what you can't do is let that be an excuse for you not to be successful. So don't use the negative things that happen to you in your life as racism. Try to figure it out so you can still be successful. And I told them to look at, you know, I use myself as an example. You know, 86% of my team is Black, and 100% of my coaching staff is Black. So you can walk around with hatred in your heart and use white privilege as an excuse not to be successful, and then you'll continue the problem that's going on today. So I told my guys to love everybody. First, assume that everyone is good, but know in the back of your mind that racism exists. And a couple of the coaches at Centenary asked me, like, I'm the only Black coach on staff, and a couple of the coaches reached out to me and they said, you know, well, what do I do? And they all said, you know, listen, and all those things are really good that you listen. But before you can listen, I told them the first thing you need to do is be vulnerable. Tell them that you have absolutely no idea what they're going through and that you'll never know. Because unless you tell them that you're clueless about what they're experiencing, and if you admit to them that white privilege exists and racism exists, then they will be in return vulnerable to you and really tell you what's going on. Maybe. Even then, it's hard to express that, you know, what they've experienced in their lives. So just that's the advice I gave my guys, is just to keep grinding it out. Don't walk around with hatred in your heart. Believe that people are good. You know, don't just assume because someone is white, they're racist. Don't assume that a police officer is bad. You know, assume that everyone is good, and then live every day that way. And I said, if you do that, you know, you'll attract good. You know, don't buy into this negativity on social media, but still have an understanding of what's going on in your life. And I think that really helped them. Their mindsets have shifted. They're being more positive about the conversation. And I told them if they really want to make change, like, you need to educate yourself, not necessarily in social injustice, but educate yourself academically, educate yourself in the professional world. And again, I use myself as an example. At the Division I level, I mean, I don't know the percentage of Black coaches, but it's extremely low. But the reason is not because there's a minimal amount of Black coaches, it's because the majority of athletic directors are white. And it's because the people who are hiring the athletic directors are white. So if you want to make an immediate impact, go be that police officer, go be that athletic director, go be that school president. And then that's the way you can make a change. You know, being upset at someone and walking around with hatred isn't the answer. So if you want to make an immediate change, you know, get in that leadership role. Don't use white privilege as an excuse to be a failure, you know, and still walk around with love in your heart. And that's the message that I gave my guys.
Yeah, it's a really, really powerful message, Coach. Appreciate you sharing that. Appreciate you sharing your own vulnerability of your own story. You know, obviously we're going to shift to the open audience, but I appreciate everybody being open to talk about a topic that's really important, not only to all of us as we go forward, but something that I feel very near and dear to myself as a Black man. It is, you know, raising two daughters. It's in a biracial marriage. My wife is Costa Rican and white. My wife's father is a former police officer and detective in the LAPD, and her mom is came as an immigrant from Costa Rica to this country. So we've had some really challenging conversations in the home when I've been there. We've had some really heavy conversations with friends, family. And I just encourage everyone. I appreciate everyone sharing those sentiments, and just encourage everyone to keep that conversation going too, and keep being open to having it, because I think that's how we continue to push and promote for change to really happen. So on a lighter note, job well done, fellas, and I'll open up to whoever has questions in the room. We appreciate you guys jumping on with us and want to give you access to these awesome coaches and awesome men. So feel free to ask any question you have.
I have a question if I can go. My name's Omega.
I was about to call on you anyway, Coach. So
were you really?
I was going to make you go first. Ladies first, you know, as a gentleman, you're supposed to do that.
Thank you. I appreciate it. My name is Omega Tandy, former women's basketball coach, just kind of in transition right now. But my question to you guys is just trying to pull from your creativity. What kind of things are you doing to keep your team together? You know, obviously we don't, some of your teams may be on campus already. Some of you guys may not be. So what kind of creative ways are you building that chemistry if your teams aren't together or before they got to campus because of COVID?
I was having this conversation this morning with another person here on our campus. This is actually because of the COVID situation and doing everything on Zoom. It's been a really unique time for all of our new guys to be incorporated in and really be engaged, you know, with the whole team. You know, a lot of times guys meet as recruits, they might exchange a number, you know, they might Some of them might text, some of them might call every now and then, and you try to force some communication in the summer. You hope there's some, but I feel like our incoming guys are more connected than ever because we've been on this platform, right? Like we've been face to face, not literally, but this is as close as we can get. And I think it's actually been really beneficial. So we've done Zoom, I'll be honest, basketball and summer strength training and all that stuff. I haven't told our guys to do one thing because they're basketball players. They're going to figure it out. That's the last thing I needed to do to stress them out on top of everything else going on with what they got. They know how to work out. They know what they need to do. So this was the least that we've done since I've been a head coach. This is the least that I've done workout basketball related in the summer. And I think, for those of you that don't know, our conference, we're in the Old Dominion Athletic Conference. We just announced tonight that we're postponed until January 1st. And so we're not playing any basketball until January at the earliest. And so now that that's happened, we're going to continue kind of the trend that we're on and really just make sure that we're focused on our people. Like if we have good people, they'll end up being good players. And so we're focused on the character side and just making sure they have relationships with one another. And this has been a great platform for that.
Yeah, we'll go one more coach to answer that one.
I haven't really done a whole lot other than individual check-ins, Zoom calls, just to really check on mental health, early on to make sure that they were taking care of their business in the classroom. We as a university really focus on first generation students, and for them to be face to face and in a classroom is huge for their learning. And I had multiple guys really struggle with going online and staying on top of it. I've always said college is the first time you get 24 hours to really do what you want to do. And now they're at their house. I'm hoping that some of them had some great parental advice and push, but I know some of them didn't. So checking on mental health and making sure that they were staying up on their studies was big going into May. And now since George Floyd, that's been our big focus. That almost every time, other than keeping them up to date about, what the season's looking like and what school's looking like. But that's been our big focus, is the racial injustice subject. I don't know where Terry and UT Dallas is with this, but I've been on campus twice since March 13th. I went out, and last week they finally opened up campus for visits where they can be outside only. So I had two guys come on campus, and we're wearing masks, and I'm sweating so hard just trying to talk with somebody with a black mask on and social distance. So I don't know what my office looks like. Right before this happened, we had a flood and my locker room got messed up. So I was busy taking up the flooring, because that's what you do here at Ozarks. You got to do it. And so I took up all the flooring, was laying it down. I got half of a locker room, and all of our lockers are in the hallway, but that's for another story. But yeah, I haven't been on campus. I mean, I've done everything from my house, which has been, it's been fantastic with my son. But I've driven my wife crazy. But with a team, it's just really keeping the mental health up, keeping them positive, keeping their motivation high has been the biggest push.
If I could just,
please.
Omega, one of the things that I think is really key is, the notoriety, the team, the notoriety of your team, really, the strength of your team is really amongst the team members. And I think all of us would agree that, kids checking on each other and connecting with each other as well as coaches. Obviously, we're checking on the kids too, but just sort of getting a tighter circle with the kids you have on the team, particularly as was mentioned, the new kids, is a really big deal. And one of the things that we really stress is when we get our new group on campus, I really get after our seniors about making sure that the new kids are incorporated into the culture, incorporated into the group right away. We're not going to have this waiting period and, you're going to be a so-called freshman for a whole year and we're going to ostracize you. I want them to know that we're glad they're here and that we want them to feel like they're part of the basketball family just as soon as possible. And I think in this situation, because of our culture, the kids just do a great job of checking on each other. It's not just us, but the group is checking on the group, so to speak. And they're all Zooming and talking and using the social media to their advantage just to make sure that each other is doing well. And I think it's only going to make us stronger because they're having to reach out to each other in different ways because they're not all seeing each other every day. So I just think that the group has to take responsibility for itself. And sometimes I think it's even better for a coach to step away and let them handle it. You've got to have a lot of confidence in your kids to be able to do that. And I'm fortunate that I really believe in them and believe in their ability to take care of each other.
Great stuff, Coach. First time I heard it was playing for you, player-led team. If we're going to be any good, we're going to have to be a player-led team. My first year, I didn't really quite get that. But my second year, I think I finally figured that out, what that meant.
Your team, buddy. Your team.
Anyone else has any questions, feel free.
I have a quick question, kind of basketball related. This is Brant Daniels. I was the head coach at Holy Family in NAI in Wisconsin. Obviously, the D3 tournament is one of the harder national tournaments to qualify for. Do you guys do anything with your programs kind of strategically to market your guys' programs? I know a lot of you are in the really strong league down in Texas and the Midwest and the Northeast are obviously talented, but do you do anything to try to put yourself in your program from a marketing standpoint in the national spotlight?
Great question.
I mean, I can start with that one. I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head that we are kind of locked in regionally, and so at times it's challenging. And I think everyone on this panel has been frustrated at times just because of how good the quality of basketball is here, and a lot of times we don't get the respect because we beat each other up, and we don't get a lot of opportunities to play. Some of those teams up north, but I think all we can do is try to schedule those games. I know that Clif and I have talked about this, and Terry a little bit, and it's just trying to figure out ways for us to get up there and play those teams or make it feasible for them to come down here and play us, so that even if all of our teams can't play against the top teams, at least some of us can. And if we can be successful, then, it just gives more notoriety to our league. So I think, that's a big initiative for us right now. I think is just trying to create opportunities for everyone in Texas and Louisiana and the South in general to get an opportunity to play against, teams from other regions. So that's really all we can do at this point is try to create more opportunities.
I'll follow that up, man. Oh, sorry.
No, go. I've talked enough. Go, please.
I'll follow that up. I mean, what did Ric Flair say, man? If you want to be the man, you got to beat the man. And so we looked it up during my 5 years at Sul Ross. Nobody played more ranked teams in non-conference competition in the country than Sul Ross did. Now, we only won 2 of those games, but we played them. And so that's something I'm going to bring here to Mary Hardin Baylor, where we have more resources and we're going to be able to bring in some of those good teams, and we're going to be able to get out and fly and play some of those teams. We're going to play a national schedule here. I've talked with Jimmy about it. We're going to try to do our best to track teams down. I know Terry does his tournaments every year and has been for a long time. But I think we just got to keep at it, and we got to keep bringing those teams in. We got to keep playing those marquee national level teams and beating them. And then from the other end of it is we have to be mindful of our RAC representatives have to help us get into the national tournament. Over the last 3 years, we've had 2 at-large bids from the ASE So that's been good. That's been a good help. We've had some success in the tournament here the last couple of years. So we got to continue to do that. You know, the only way to get noticed is to win games. And, you know, I would like for our conference to do a little more with the social media and with some of the, you know, promoting us a little more, but, you know, that's something that's out of our control a little bit. You know, from what we can control here as coaches is to schedule those big boys and either bring them down here to Texas or go meet them where they are and play them and beat them. And that's the way to get recognized.
Coach Butterfield, you're the longest tenured coach. We'll let you chime in on that too, because you've been dealing with this the longest.
Well, I think Clif nailed it. Your strength of schedule, Brant, is a huge deal. This past year, we were able to get into the NCAA tournament in spite of losing in our conference semifinals, and it was strength of schedule that saved us. We were able to, you know, and so it's funny, sometimes you schedule these things and, you know, it just works out that way where teams around you have had good years. We go to Millsaps and lose to Jimmy's team. Jimmy had a good year, so it didn't hurt us too badly. You know, we, you know, playing high level opponents with good strength of schedules is the whole key to the NCAA thing if you don't win your conference tournament. And I think the other thing is that, and Clif, you comment on this, and Jimmy, you too. I just think that when you get a certain reputation in your neck of the woods, that really elevates you and transcends you to a different level. Everybody knows who Walsh U is in St. Louis. Everybody knows who Emory is in Atlanta. When we go around the country and talk about, you know, Wisconsin Platteville and Wisconsin Stevens Point, and we can go back east at Wittenberg, you know, around the country, there are formidable, well-known teams nationally that every year seem to be in the running for an NCAA tournament bid. And you have to work hard to get to that level. And then you have to work to stay there once you're there. So I just think that I would reiterate what Clif said, you know. You got to go play the best teams you can. And you know, and the worst part is not everybody's got the same resources. There are teams that can fly all over the country and never think twice about it, and other people that have to fundraise for 2 or 3 years just to make one trip. So it's not an even playing field, and you got to do the best with what you've got.
Thank you.
Good question, BD.
That's all. I ask a question. I know my son here is acting a fool, but I'm Adam Hood at UTSA. I just got a quick question. How do you guys kind of handle and manage recruiting since kind of there are no rules? Is it, you know, obviously all these events are happening all times of the year. Obviously there are COVID-19 events are going on right now. How do you guys kind of manage that since there isn't really guidance on when you can go out to recruit and when you can't?
I'll jump in. I think, you know, you have to have balance. If you don't, your wife and your family will hate you. You know, you can be out all year long, and you know that is a blessing, but it's also a little bit of a curse for our level because you feel like you feel like you have to. You know, you feel like it's kind of like you guys at UTSA. You're trying to catch up to Baylor. You know, like you're trying to do everything you can to catch up. I'm over here, had 6 teams in my league nationally ranked, and you know, a year ago, and then this past year we had 4 teams nationally ranked. I got to do everything I can to try to make up the gap, and so you know, we can be out all we want, but we got to be smart, man. I mean, for anybody on here that doesn't really know D3, I mean, our list is 200, 300 kids. And, you know, that's at a the best academic D3s can have shorter lists because they have to have a shorter list to be able to prioritize and get those kids in. And then it's easier to narrow down. Jimmy and Terry can kind of speak to that some, but the rest of us are kind of at more like normalized D3s per se. We're all so different with what we need. And so everybody's recruiting's individualized and so unique, but everybody has their own niche. in Division III, and you really have to find it and take advantage of it. And you got to learn it quick and utilize it.
Great point.
Adam, I think more than anything is getting a really high quality assistant. I was really lucky with Thomas. Now it's Clif. With Clif, he was with me last year, and man, he's a workhorse. I mean, he is constantly on the phone and texting, and he's coming up with names. And when in the guts of the season, when we're trying to make the conference tournament in this just crazy ASC East, he's keeping in touch with all the guys. And it's, I think more than anything is just having a, some people call it a grinder type of guy. And I'm all into the recruiting, right? I'm making calls every night, but to have a guy that's a nuts and bolts, that knows guys' names, is constantly on the phone, and just loves it, is key to it all.
In my 5 years at Sul Ross, I didn't attend a single summer tournament. My recruiting budget was $500. And for me to go to one of those tournaments, it would eat up my entire thing. So, we just chose not to do it. We have to do it a different way. Huddle has completely changed recruiting for us. We can see kids play from anywhere across the world by getting good videos. So that's completely changed that deal. Now, being here is a little different situation because we're closer to things. I'm able to drive down to Round Rock and go watch a tournament and be back in my bed that night. So it'll be a little different here, but you just have to work, man. You find kids in all different places. In Division III, you have to be willing to go look where other people won't. I made a living out in West Texas finding these kids up under a rock that nobody even heard of them. Caleb Thomas is from Ackerley, Texas. Raise your hand if you know where that is. Right. So, I was just lucky enough because I grew up out there. So, and he's one of the all-time great players in the ASC. So you just have to, you got to work. You got to be willing to go where other people don't. And you got to be willing to kind of understand what you want, what fits your program, and then recruit those kids.
Yeah. Kind of what Clif said, you gotta like I go to the underground, the dirty dog, the showcases that nobody knows about, the ones that's outside at the park. Like that's where you're gonna find, for me, that's where I'm gonna find the goons that I need to, and then I just cross my fingers and hope they got the grades to get in. But I don't really like if I go to a Gasso in Texas. I mean, I'm gonna see every coach in a conference. We're all recruiting the same kid. So why fight that battle? Like if an academic kid is talking to Trinity and us, I mean, it's a no-brainer. He's gonna go to Trinity, better facilities, better academics. So why even, go up against that? So I try to find the gritty places, and I tell my coaching staff that we need to recruit 100 kids to get one. Like that's our motto, 100 to 1. And with that, I've been able to bring in like 15 kids every year. We have a JV team now. So over the past 3 years, I've brought in 45 plus kids. So, that's the kind of route that we take for recruiting.
And I'll chime in a little bit on that. And obviously I know Adam was there well, and my brother played there, and I've seen kind of the highs and lows of Centenary, but never seen that many athletic black kids at Centenary that could play. So credit to you for kind of figuring out a way to get it going and get a championship, because that is a difficult, challenging niche of a job. So credit to you.
Thank you.
I have a question, as some other people kind of maybe come up with theirs. Definitely, over the years, we all kind of get to cut our teeth in recruiting, and that's a big part of what we do in our role. But, kind of as you advance in your career, you kind of specialize in a niche here or there, and player development is definitely something that I really love and put some time and energy into. But as playing Division III, you have so much limitations in your off seasons of what you can do and what you can't do, and even in your season. So curious, just a little bit, if you don't mind, each guy just kind of saying a little bit of how do you kind of build your system for player development and developing players, because obviously I know that it's a hard level when you don't have the summer like we have at Division I, and some of the things that we're able to do at the higher levels, you guys don't have the same access to be able to do. So how do you guys kind of find your niche with player development, if you don't mind?
Yeah, I'll jump in there first. Oh, so
you got it. Go ahead, man.
I'll jump in there. So to me, it's just what we got done talking about just carries right over into what you're talking about here. You've got to recruit kids that want to be better. You got to recruit kids that want to be successful. And then you develop a culture of wanting to win. We're so restricted with what we can do before October. Now it's going to be October 1st. Just got released at 5:00, but we're so restricted in what we can do. You have to have kids that'll get in there by themselves and want to work. So if you're not recruiting self-starters and hardworking kids and special kids and kids that want to be better, you're not going to have player development, and it's just not going to happen. So it starts with recruiting.
Yeah, I can piggyback on that one. I think something that gets missed a lot at our level is how important retention is. And, a lot of times we're getting kids that are really good players, but there could be an issue here or there, or they need a little bit more attention, or, for whatever reason, they're at our place. And so I think spend a lot of time getting to know them, because the reality of it is in any good program as a freshman, you're probably not going to play a whole lot. And I think that's even harder to take for kids that are not on an athletic scholarship. And so I think it's really a lot of the development has to take place with character stuff to make sure they understand that you care and why this is still a good place for them and all of those things, so that those kids stick around. So by the time they're juniors and seniors, they're players for you, and I think all the guys on this call have done a really good job with their programs. And I think if you go and look back at the teams that we're winning with, it was primarily upperclassmen. And so I just think retention is a really big piece for us, because there's a lot of pitfalls for ways you can lose kids, whether it's, they have a good year, so people start trying to poach them, or their finances, or whatever it is. There's a million reasons to leave when you don't have an athletic scholarship. And so I think a lot of the stuff has to be off the court development too. So I think that's something everyone's probably done a good job of on this call.
Yeah, I'll speak to that too, and kind of give Travis some more love. I think my junior year, and I wasn't phenomenal or all conference or anything, but I think I played 38 minutes a game. My next year, Travis was there, so I think Travis may have played 5 or 6, and I played 34. So to Travis's credit, he's one of those guys that stayed around and put in the work and developed over the time, because obviously he was a significantly better player than even I was. I taught him everything not to do, like I said. So I think Coach Butterfield and Coach Carruthers, if you don't mind chiming in on that too, at your level, how do you kind of master the player development?
Well, it could be said that the coach at UTD was an idiot because he waited so long to play Travis, because once Travis got inserted into the starting lineup, we ended up winning a conference championship that year. So something could be said about talent evaluation and coaching. But Travis, you want to respond to that?
Well, for me, Brian, you kind of hit the nail on the head. I came in and I was like $140 soaking wet. And I remember like sweating it, because we had like 22 guys or so somewhere in there my freshman year. And I was sweating.
Yep.
Yeah. And we didn't have a JV team. And I sweated if I was going to be traveling, right? Like I wasn't a part of the rotation. I was the last guy on the bench waving a towel. And what really drove me is sitting down with Terry after the season and him saying, if you stay the way you are, you're never going to see the floor. And I guess kind of my character, I got kind of an ego check there. I was like, well, I better work, and my body didn't really fill out until maybe my junior and senior year. But you like they say, you got to get guys that want to work, and then, just keep pushing them and keep telling them where they can be if they do this and that, and give them specifics about, give them specific stuff to do. Don't just say, hey, you gotta shoot 500 shots a day or whatever it is. For me, what's worked in our program is giving them really specific workouts, and you can't check on them. You can't let them have They can't tell you how many they made or when they did it or not, but making sure that they don't have an excuse on that you didn't do the work beforehand.
Brian, I'll jump in. All the court stuff, I think the majority of us probably do the same, similar stuff. I think one of the things where I've tried to be a little different, kind of starting about 5 years ago, was focusing more on the education on human performance, with our kids, and just talking about the value of sleep and recovery and hydration and nutrition, because we don't get to control a lot at this level, right? Like our meals aren't we're not eating at the training table that we see pictures of from University of Houston every day on social media. So we don't have control of a lot of those things, but we can help educate our guys and help them to make better choices. And I think, I'll give you an example. Travion Kirkendall at Centenary, ended up being a 1,900 point scorer freshman year. He's a guy that we're having a conversation. He tells me he's never slept more than 4.5 hours in a night. And, he's a stud athletically. He's a stud, and he wasn't sleeping. And I said, you got no clue how good you can be just because you just don't know. You've never recovered. And by the time he graduated, I think he was up to about 7. And so just the amount of time that we took having those conversations and just the educational side, and we've continued to do that here. And I took over a program here that wasn't even lifting weights when I walked in the door here at Shenandoah, and they didn't even lift weights as a program. And so, really ground zero conversation of human performance when we got here with our guys. And knowing we don't control a lot, we can still help educate them. And, pros that are in their 30s and 40s going, if I knew I could hydrate myself and eat my way into staying in the NBA until I was in my 30s, I wish somebody would have helped me do that sooner. There's so many things that you can pass on to these guys along the way. And I think that's one of the biggest pieces that we can do, is just help them get the most out of themselves, because they don't know how.
Good stuff. Thanks, Adam. Dorsey, you want to jump in on that?
Yeah, sure. For us, it's taken a couple years, but I'm trying to learn every day as a coach. But the one thing that I try to focus on is to be fair. And I tell my guys, hey, if you're not working out, if you're not improving, I don't care what you tell me or how much you powder. If you want to transfer, you're not playing. But I don't only tell them that, I show them that as well, like the reason why they're not playing, or I show them the things that they need to work on, or I'll tell them. But one thing that we do that we've developed is pre-practice. Like we always, we emphasize skill development. We work on it 15, 20 minutes before we start practice. And that kind of transitioned on to the off season. And then to this year, guys were like, coach is big on player development. We have to work out. So it took a couple of years to get there. But now we've almost built before we used to say identity, but now we finally have a culture to where I know when the freshmen come in, the returners are going to say, you got to get your butt in the gym, or I can tell you right now, coach not playing. So it's kind of a scarcity type of thing, plus just keeping it real with them. So you either work on your game and play, or you stay where you are and that next guy moves ahead of you. So that's the type of conversations and the things that we have.
Awesome. We'll take one more. I think Coach Jackson's got a question, and then we'll get some closing thoughts and kind of wrap things up.
Hey there, it's Boise Jackson, Centennial High School. I have a question just in terms of, I hear all of the, I'm not gonna call them negatives, but again, y'all mentioned a lot of the challenges that it takes to be able to for kids to attend a Division III level university. So why would a kid want to attend a Division III university, right? Based off of all of the things in which that I've heard thus far. whether it was cost, whether it was facilities, whether it was travel, whether it was other resources, whether it was poor health plan, whatever it may be. Why would they choose a Division III, right? If they have to deal with all of these other obstacles.
I'd like to start off taking that one. You'd be amazed, how many kids are from families where they're putting the quality of the education first. And I can just tell you from experience, we've been able to get a number of kids to our place that had been offered Division II scholarships because their families felt like they would get a better education at our place. And they could do, most kids understand that when their college experience is over, that's it. Now, I know there's a whole culture of kids out there that want to go to Europe and play professionally, and I get that. But there's a lot of kids out there that realize they want to be great basketball players, but most importantly, they want to choose a great school that's going to help them be where they want to be a year out of school, 5 years out of school, 10, 20 years out of school. How is that degree going to work for them? We had a kid, a freshman on our team this year, turned down a full scholarship at Colorado School of Mines to come to our place. And Mines is a great Division II school. It's great academics. I think he wanted to be a little closer to home. The money wasn't the issue. What the issue was for him is getting the kind of education he wanted to get in an area of the country that he wanted to be. So I think that, we talk about the things we don't have at Division III, but let me tell you, the things we have are awesome. These are great academic institutions that most of us are working at. It is not a job. The kids are getting the chance to have balance and be kids and be students as well as college basketball players. And I think some kids just opt for that. I've had kids come back from Division II and saying, I hated basketball. It was a job. It was an occupation. It was a chore. We had to be there 6, 7 hours a day. They didn't care about my academics. They didn't care about what I wanted to do after school. I mean, there's some real stories out there. So I feel proud that we keep the work-life balance in perspective at the Division III level. And I think a lot of kids respond to that.
Yeah, I think on the other side of it too is I would be really confident because I know I've been at some places that's, underfunded a little bit, but the kids never know it. I think every guy on this call works extremely hard to fundraise, and like Travis is putting down flooring and painting locker rooms and whatever it is that we have to do to make the experience for our guys, a Division I or whatever level experience, which I've been at some crappy Division Is, but just in general, the best experience it can be for our kids, like we're going to do it. And so I think we all understand the challenges that we have, but most of the time the kids don't know because we're just putting in extra work to make sure that they get everything that they need and that they're a part of, like Coach said, a great academic place, but also a program that cares about them, is going to try to make it as first class as they can. So it truly is an amazing level, and you got great people and people that are working hard. And so I'm a product of it as a player. And I went to Mary Hardin Baylor before all the cool stuff that Clif has now. We played in the old gym, and it didn't deter from my experience one bit. I would go back and do it again.
Yeah, I'll speak in on that one a little bit too, just from a playing standpoint, and even from being at a junior college like Clif and like Coach Walsh at some point in time in my career. Normally that's not a level that guys from JUCO would go to, but I think ultimately guys are looking for where they can have value, where they can play, where they can have a connection with a coach to feel like they're somebody. So very similar to like you, Coach Jackson, who is at a high school where maybe like, okay, well, why don't I go to Kimball? Why don't I go to Duncanville? It's a similar feel. At the end of the day, people want to go where they can be special. And I think Division III can allow for that in a lot of different ways that other levels may not. And it's definitely not near as business. I think the purity of the game, we love the game, which most all players that are successful at any level love the game. I think they can find a great niche in Division III. You know, again, just speaking from some of the guys I know, I was at a Division II at one point in time when Jimmy was at Mary Hardin Baylor, and they beat us for a Division I transfer, flat out. I still to this day don't know how, but it made sense. It was closer to home. He felt like he could really be the man. I know Coach Butterfield's had a Division I transfer before. I'm sure other guys have. I know we played against at Ozarks. There was a Division I transfer that was really good that we beat in that last game of the season that I was excited about. But he was a really good player. So I think he's just kind of going where you can have that value. And I think like Coach Smith said, you know, just like you hustle at your school at Centennial, these guys are all putting their programs in positions where the players can feel how much they're loved and cared for. And I think, again, that goes undervalued because sometimes at the next level, you're another number. You know what I mean? It's so business-like and it's get it done or else. And there's 13 full scholarship guys. We all know 13 scholarship guys are not playing. You know, and Division II is 10, but you break it up. So, you know, you can get lost in all of that. And I think sometimes it's just about going where you can be great.
Brian, let me jump in there, man. And you know, Coach Jackson actually have, you know, friends and one of my best players last year came from his high school. He didn't get the coaching, but came from his high school and he knew him. So, but I'll tell you this, man, I've been in this long enough to watch kids turn down an opportunity to come play Division III where it was a good fit. It was a good fit academically. It was a good fit basketball wise. It was a personality fit between me and that kid. That kid fit my program. But, you know, we've created such a culture with the summer league stuff. And now we get the trainers, you know, say, hey, come play for me and I'll get you a scholarship. Okay. And this is what these kids are being told and conditioned. And what they don't understand is that the scholarship is not always the best thing for them. Okay. So I'm going to tell you right now at Sul Ross State University, there were kids that were costing themselves money by taking scholarship money, right? So their half scholarship at an NAIA private school was costing them way more money than just coming to Sul Ross. So I can't tell you how many kids chased the JUCO, chased the NAIA, chased the D2 walk-on deal, and they got disenfranchised with basketball because it wasn't a good fit for them. They weren't happy. They didn't have a good experience, and these kids just quit playing. Whereas I am 100% convinced that if that kid had to come to us at Sul Ross State University, that he would have had 4 great years, would have been all conference, an all-American player, had a great experience. So some of these kids they're just told from the time that they're young, you know, we're going to go see this trainer because he's going to get us a scholarship. We're going to play on this AAU team because they're going to get us a scholarship. They don't understand the scholarship is not the end-all be-all. Now, Division I, full ride, you know, all the stuff that some of these Division I's, yes. I mean, I agree with that. Some of the great Division II schools, but once you start getting to the lower tier Division II, and the majority of these and I'm not knocking NAI, but the majority of these NAI schools, they're a lot better off coming to us, getting a great experience, getting the balance that Terry talks about, getting to play for great coaches, getting to play in good arenas and playing for the NCAA championship. You know, like we're all playing for the NCAA championship, just like Texas Tech and Baylor and everybody else. It's just a different division. So I can give you countless number of kids who I felt like made a mistake, chased a scholarship, got disenfranchised, and just quit. They didn't even finish out their season. There's one kid, he's a 6'8" kid that I chased out of high school. He went to JUCO. I chased him out of JUCO. He went to Division I. Then he transferred out of Division I. I tried to get him then. He went back to NAI school. Then he transferred out of that, tried to get him then. If that kid had just come to us, you know, 4 years ago, he would have been an All-American. And he would have had a great experience, and he knows that, you know. And now that he knows it, he says, man, if I could go back and do it over again, I would have just come to Sul Ross. So it's, you know, there's a lot to everything. I just think that we put way too much credence in these partial up scholarships that are basically Pell Grants that are redressed into athletic scholarships, and kids are going to places that don't fit them, and they're in a terrible situation that doesn't fit them.
Clif, are you guys the only ones that are sick to death of hearing about the preferred walk-on?
Yeah, that's a crock, coach.
Yeah.
Every coach on the call is just like,
you're part of the problem, Burton.
Coach,
Come to our place. Come to our place. You'll be a preferred walk-on.
I will
Ooh.
say this, though. We had a conversation. I won't say the name of the player about a preferred walk-on, and he ended up being an all-conference player for UT Dallas. So I will say I actually listened when you said it.
And he went to the right place, that kid did.
He did.
He did. So
Let's do this. Thanks for everyone for being on. Let's have the coaches have just any final thoughts you have, anything else you want to share, and then we'll kind of close it out.
enjoyed being on with you, Brian. Thanks very much. Enjoyed it a lot.
Yep, thank you, Coach. I know we had to get some wisdom in this thing, man. We got all the young guns, man. We had to get some wisdom and get the Hall of Famer in here, man. So thanks so much, Coach, for taking the time.
Appreciate
Thanks
you,
a lot,
B.
Brian. It's been good talking to you guys. I've had a good time. It's such a unique experience here with COVID, but anytime that you can get the guys on that I was able to share with today, it's been a good night. So thank you.
Thank you, Travis.
Yeah, Coach, appreciate it. If I could say one thing, I don't know how many more high school coaches we have on, but I would just encourage every high school coach to go to a Division III game so they can have an understanding of the talent level, and know what's really going on at the Division III level.
Yeah, you'll be like my wife. All of a sudden, you'll have respect for Division III players.
It's a great point.
I'll tell you this, man. I was a JUCO guy, Division I, D2, and my second Division III game was down at Texas Lutheran, and I watched Jimmy's team throw in about 25 three-pointers and beat us. And so it was that night where I sat down and said, man, I've got to figure something out or I'm going to get my tail end pounded here in Division III by these really, really good players that Jimmy had. So all my success I owe to Jimmy Smith, and I'll pay it back with an enchilada down in San Antonio on the Riverwalk sometime. How about that?
I'll take it. Yeah, I would say thanks for everyone for being on. Brian, thanks for putting this group together. I been fortunate and unfortunate to coach against all these guys in different situations, but a lot of respect for all of them. And thanks to everyone who got on. And I know a lot of us put our information on there. And I think, to me, one of the cool things that's come out of COVID is all the sharing and the camaraderie you see in the coaching community. So not that I have a ton of answers, but feel free to reach out to me, or I would encourage you to reach out to these other guys. And I know, we can continue to keep these relationships going and help each other as we move forward. So I just appreciate you all being on here.
I'll say thanks to, just echo everybody else. This is big time, B. You're using this platform really well. I appreciate, everything you're doing with this right now, and just knowing you for a long time, and back to the Dragon days, and, appreciate, what you're doing right now with this. And this is a very interesting time that we're all in, being a part of higher ed. And I'm not sure that any of us can forecast what college basketball looks like 2 years from now, 3 years from now, or what higher ed looks like 2 or 3 years from now. It's a changing market, and I just encourage everybody to learn and pay attention to what's going on, because it's an environment that's going to change on us, man. And we have to know as coaches, we have to be ready for it and be ready to adapt. And there's a lot yet to come with the economic stuff that's in front of us over the next 6 to 8 months. And, it's going to be tough on some schools, and it's going to be tough on some conferences. And, I think a lot of things can change for the better, through this. And there's a lot of stuff that maybe Division I conferences won't play over 10 states. Maybe they'll get back to being a little more regional, and we might see some better realignment out of this, just with less travel and some of that stuff. So it'll be interesting to see what all comes, but just stay informed, understand the business, because it's a changing business right now, as I think we're in a changing world. We're in higher ed, so we get educated every day on something. So just keep learning.
Yeah, thanks for that, Adam. I know Coach Adam Hood just made a funny comment in his chat. Their players, if you've seen UTSA's backcourt or their scoring numbers, you'll know why he never recruited a preferred walk-on. But I say that to say Thanks so much to everybody, man. Thanks to the panel of coaches. I didn't ask the question who all has played against each other, but I pretty much know everyone has some ties and has played against each other and has some good war stories. But Division III, I'm obviously fond of that level. I think even myself, you graduate high school in Texas and all you hear about is all the scholarship schools. You just hear about scholarship everywhere. And the longer I coach, obviously I had a phenomenal D3 experience with Coach and Travis. And my brother played Division III as well, and he's now a women's coach and is very successful. But I just think this level doesn't get as much credit or notoriety. Similar to Brent asked the question, even about visibility. So appreciate you guys coming on. Wanted to just share some love to the Division III level and the elite coaches that are at that level. And thank you guys, and just keep making impact. Keep leading from the heart. Keep making impact. Obviously, it's a time where our players need us more now than ever, just from a mental health standpoint, from a understanding how to make sense of the world, and just direction standpoint. So just keep up the good work. Stay in touch, and look forward to following you guys having more success.
Appreciate it. Thanks, everybody.
Yep. Thanks again, Brian.
Yep. Thank you guys.